Yeah, look at that. Tony versus last 7 opponents. Jesus Christ.
They're all bloody messes.
Even like the things he posts, like you get an insight into how crazy his mind is. Like,
did you see his press conference after surgery after Anthony Pettis?
No.
Yeah, he was talking about how he was going to be a doctor. He said, I think he said something like, what did he say? He said, you know what they call me? Because he's like, yeah, he's a GQ guy. He's talking about Anthony. He's like, he's a GQ guy. You know what they call me? They call me the GQ Killer. You know what that is? It's an awesome nickname.
Mixed martial arts is the very kind of a professional sport that will always attract the mass viewers around the world. From the dawn of time, people of different eras, following the motto of bread and circuses, were watching such a show beginning from gladiator battles, and for the most part, nothing really changed. The difference is that right now, everything is more official and delivered to the masses via the internet. And as it was always the case among all the participants of the big game, there were fighters that distinguished themselves due to their style, almost forcing us to stick to the screen and wait for the upcoming tournaments. And today we're going to talk about such fighters. Please don't forget about the likes, comment with forwards, and subscribe to the channel. Here we go. Number 10. Khamzat Chimaev.
I'm real gangster here. I eat the gangster for breakfast. That's why I'm here.
A huge shadow of Khamzat Chimaev has been hovering over multiple weight classes of the world's best league for a long time. Despite a relatively short professional career, the Chechen had time to make himself one of the most promising prospects. For the most part, thanks to his effervescent performances that made Boars popular around the world. Since the moment of his MMA debut on May the 26th of 2018 until this day, Khamzat Chimaev had 12 professional fights and won every single one of them in a spectacular and dominant fashion. Since July of 2020, the Chechen fighter has been competing in the UFC and terrorizing 2 divisions. Apart from the highest level skills, his main attribute is a persistent and unshakable confidence. Like nothing else, it makes Chimaev dismantle his opponents at their own game defiantly easy every time he steps into the octagon with no exaggeration. Khamzat spends his whole free time in the gym and constantly evolves. It's his genuine and real love for the craft that puts Boars on a new level after each fight. Regardless of what anybody says, Khamzat Chimaev is a real threat that absolutely everybody should reckon with, because otherwise you can have a trip to the Chechen Airlines across the entire octagon, as it was the case with Li Jingliang. Get a ticket to the Shadow Realm like with Gerald Meerschaert, or find yourself in a vicious and uncompromising 15-minute war, after which Gilbert Burns had to be put in the hospital. And many other things. The Chechen is only 28 and he is not even close to his prime. Best believe that guy has a lot to impress you with, and for now, he takes that place on our list.
I respect all my opponents, the people. I'm here in the cage, I have no respect, nobody. If I come to kill somebody, I take my money. Outside, I respect all the guys. I like to speak with my opponents, joke with them. And I don't know why people hate me sometimes. I'm lefty. I come for everybody and show good fights and take money, be happy. Thanks.
Number 9. Yuri Prohaska.
and you see him working out in the woods too, like ties pads around trees and he's kicking and punching trees, like very strange.
Yeah.
He seems like a super odd dude. He was doing something that's not wise though. Like he was patting Glover, saying, "Good job, you're doing a good job." Like
in the middle of the fight?
Yeah.
Oh.
And, you know, Mark Goddard was telling him, like, hey, you're playing a dangerous game because that seems like you're tapping.
Yeah.
Like, what are you doing?
Yuri Prohaska is a charismatic Czech knockout artist who not that long ago broke into the world's best league and conquered many fans from the very first performances. Sure, right now he is absent due to an injury, but still, based on the previous fights inside the UFC, he can definitely be called one of the flashiest and most unorthodox representatives of the sport. He spent a long time fighting in Japan, where the public exulted during his appearances almost every single time. In the past, this guy was the Ryzen light heavyweight champion, gladiator fighting championship title holder, and a former champion of the world's best league in the same weight class. On top of that, Yuri Prochazka is into Eastern philosophy and follows the samurai code. That's where his nickname comes from, Czech Samurai. Compared to many prospects and even some veterans, Prochazka prefers to express himself in the cage and not outside of it. The Czech fighter doesn't like to trash talk and put on a show at the press conferences. He always showcases his art inside the octagon, where he invariably throws on vivid brawls. He constantly hunts for his opponent's head and for the knockout. His style has a lot in common with the prime Tony Ferguson, who always amazed people with the creativity of his arsenal and being absolutely unpredictable. The combinations of jab and front kicks straight into the head, and of course spinning elbows, are already drilled moves that always reach their target. And if he doesn't succeed in ending the fight with a strike or a finish, he might choke you out and put all the questions aside. Such a situation happened in his last fight with a tough veteran in the face of Glover Teixeira. Despite an elite level of grappling and jiu-jitsu, the Czech Samurai managed to stop the veteran and become the champion of the world. We can't wait for this guy to return to the octagon, and for now, he is placed number 9 on our top list.
Hey.
Number 8. Nate Diaz.
Nate Diaz, you just shook up the world. How's that feel?
Hey, I'm not surprised.
Nate Diaz is undoubtedly the main gangster of the entire UFC. It's this rare type of reserved person that fits in the fighting industry just perfectly. Sure, he did not conquer the UFC gold, however the Stocktonian definitely earned the status of a legend. A thorny path of Nate Diaz from being a prospect who won the Ultimate Fighter show until this very moment took 15 years. Since 2007, this guy has been conquering the organization and the hearts of the loyal fans. At first, the Stocktonian was performing with variable success. Short winning streaks were mixed with single losses, but in all of that could be seen one general trait, an inimitable style that made one turn the TV on and witness what this impudent son of Stockton does every time. Basically, Diaz never cared what the displeased viewers and fellow fighters think about him. He had his own goals, his own motivation, and he knew what needed to be done to achieve the desired result. What he did in the octagon together with the offered opponents couldn't be called anything but a scrap. He did not go out to have a fight, he went out to brawl and make money. Despite a rather ordinary physique, as it seemed to many during his active performances, Nate is very responsible in terms of preparation and always takes his conditioning very seriously prior to the upcoming fights. Not to mention his triathlon training. Many fighters note that the Stocktonian is a lot stronger, tougher and more enduring than he seems at first glance. And these are not just words. Throughout his career, Diaz has been in many troubles and critical situations, but in the end he always came out on top, at least from a moral standpoint. Just a year prior to Leon Edwards conquering the welterweight championship, Nate and the Brit went through a 5-round war where he almost knocked Leon out cold. And one of the biggest upsets in history against Conor McGregor doesn't even need to be discussed. Overall, Nate is undoubtedly one of the most vivid representatives of the sport in recent times, and because of that, he takes this place on our list.
Let me know when you're ready.
Number 7. Anderson Silva.
I was a fan of Anderson's from
Look at that
watching
bounce.
him fight
I
in
love that
England. Look at
bounce.
that jab.
Oh.
I was a fan of watching him fight in England in Cage Rage and watching him fight in Pride. And I remember saying this, ladies and gentlemen, this is a different kind of striker.
Anderson Silva is without a doubt the main hero of the past generation. Those fireworks that the Brazilian phenom was throwing on inside the octagon during his best years does not lose their relevance till this day. Or more so, even right now, when you rewatch his fights, you can always pick up something new that you didn't see the previous time. Anderson Silva always named a number of people to be his heroes. His mother, the Spider-Man, Bruce Lee and Muhammad Ali. It's not a secret that his signature and inimitable style is a combination based on the last three. The Brazilian was always fluid like Bruce Lee, incredibly mobile in the cage like Muhammad, and had inhuman reaction and reflexes like a real superhero. Prime Silva was able to put on a show with any given opponent. His rich arsenal allowed the Brazilian to find the keys to any fighter with no exceptions. A high-level base in Muay Thai and Thai boxing, and also an elite Jiu-Jitsu, delivered a magic that was hypnotizing. Front kick knockout? Easy. Maybe some knees? You're welcome. A trip to the Shadow Realm after a counter jab? Cakewalk. Or maybe a triangle after 4 rounds of domination from the opponent? We have that as well. The Brazilian Spider is a unique human being, one of the kind fighter, unsurpassed showman in terms of a spectacle. And considering all of that, Anderson Silva deserves this place on our list.
You're the best.
No,
you're the best.
Number 6. Dustin Poirier.
Man, this feels amazing. I feel like I'm in a dream right now. I just beat one of the pound-for-pound best in the world. To be the best, you gotta beat the best.
Dustin Poirier has been at the top of one of the most competitive weight classes in the world's best league for many years. The career of Diamond was not always an easy sailing. It was tough for the young fighter during the first few years of performances, and it was clear. But over time, the American obtained elite level skills in every discipline and climbed to the very top of this sport. He never chose the easy path and always gave everything he had to achieve the goal. Despite tribulations and rough patches, he came back being the better version of himself. It reached the point where Dustin can adjust to any given scenario of the fight, not counting the fighters that have an exorbitant level of wrestling or jiu-jitsu. Apart from that, Poirier can definitely be called one of the most well-rounded fighters right now. What else is there to say when he choked Michael Chandler out and became the first fighter who managed to do that to the Iron One? In the 5-round brawl with Dan Hooker, Diamond showed what he is made of and why he deserves to be where he is at. And the knockout in the 2nd round with Conor McGregor can be recognized as his greatest achievements of all time. The fans never got bored when they see Dustin in the octagon because they know that they are about to witness an amazing technique and intense clash. Currently, Dustin Poirier is 34 years old. He is at the stage where the lightweight fighter can still be in the best conditions for a while, and we suppose that there wouldn't be a better time to give Diamond his last title shot. And for now, he takes this place on our list.
Mike Brown told me to stop jumping guillotines, and I told him, F you.
Number 5. Tony Ferguson.
Where you at, McNuggets, you piece of I'm gonna kick your ass! You better come and defend that belt! Defend or vacate!
The Mexican El Cucuy has been terrorizing the lightweight division for a long 8 years. As soon as somebody mentioned Tony Ferguson's name, everybody involuntarily imagined a picture of this merciless and unstoppable boogeyman with his actions in the octagon. Regardless of what anybody says, the boogeyman was simply unbeatable during his prime. As history taught us, everybody the world's best league offered him were drowned in the puddles of their own blood. Tony Ferguson is especially unique due to the fact that he combines that specific set of traits that a true warrior should have: an unshakable belief in controlling your own destiny, irresistible desire to evolve as a fighter and a human being, infinite potential, a true and blatant hunger to win, and of course, an unbreakable will with a strength of character. These are the reasons why the American of Mexican descent was appealing to the viewer. All this captivating originality compelled people's attention from literally the very first performances, eventually turning them into his loyal fans. Tony Ferguson never spared his health and power to put on a bloodbath in the main octagon. Or more so, he himself always took risks to entertain everybody watching and paying attention to him. But unfortunately, guys like him often end their careers on a sad note. They just can't stop when it's time to do so. And they can't do that because they don't want to. Tony Ferguson is a true warrior, and like a warrior, he prefers to die on the battlefield with his head high. We don't have a right to judge him for that, but humanly, one simply feels sorry for El Cucuy. He gave his sport his entire life, and in the end went on to have a devastating decline which could be avoided. But Ferguson decided differently. Right now, the Mexican butcher is 39 years old, and he still hasn't retired from a professional sport. He experiences more and more devastating defeats in every subsequent fight, which is obviously depressing. But that energy that is present in the octagon and channeled from the fans screaming his name tells us that they are still supporting Tony Ferguson. Perhaps they realize that the miracle is not going to happen, but they are still with him and will never turn their back from him. And that's what matters the most. That's why El Cucuy takes this spot on our list.
No, this is a rat race, but I'm no rat. I'm a turtle, ninja turtle. So which one's your favorite? I like Michelangelo.
Number 4. Conor McGregor.
Listen, I've spent a lot of time, Joe, slating everybody in the company. Backstage, I'm starting fights off everybody. I've ridiculed everyone on the roster. I just want to say from the bottom of my heart, I'd like to take this chance to apologize to absolutely nobody. The double champ does what the he wants.
It's not a secret to anybody that the figure of Conor McGregor has already exceeded the limits of fame and recognition a long time ago compared to any, even the most dominant fighters in the history of the sport. As soon as the Notorious One broke into the UFC and began to run through everybody in his way in a vivid and premature fashion, reinforcing this arrogant image and a provoking trash talk, people started to anticipate his every next fight with even more impatience. During the times when the Irishman was hungry for money and fame, he was unmatched. And these are not just words. A motivated Conor McGregor was never standing still and always evolved. While his resume was getting more impressive, he consistently brought something new into the game. Apart from his new techniques and ways to finish fights, he thoroughly studied his opponents, picking up the ideal game plan. Besides the crystal clear confidence, Conor also channeled another quality, somewhat intangible but still very conspicuous, the aura of invincibility. Before the first fight with Nate Diaz, nobody could even figure out how to approach the rising talent, who simply destroyed the dominant champion in the face of Jose Aldo in 13 seconds. The Notorious One always had a ready tongue, all while backing up every harsh statement. That's what charmed people. If McGregor believed that he was capable of ripping some fighter's head off, we also believed in that, because Conor was confident in saying that, and we had no reason to question his words. That's the level the Irishman was at. Sure, right now there is nothing left from this aura, however the figure of the Notorious One still draws attention. That's some kind of a different magic, his very own one. Now every appearance of this guy in the octagon is seen as a true event, and quite frankly, everybody is still happy that they can take part in that. For all the above, Conor McGregor takes this spot on our list.
Again, nobody can take that left-hand shot, but I tell you, he's powerful and he's fast, but precision beats power and timing beats speed, and that's what you saw there.
Number 3. Charles Oliveira.
and he just turned a corner and then became the baddest in the weight class.
Yeah.
And not just the baddest in the weight class, but one of the best in the sport. When he knocked out Chandler and he beat the shit out of Gaethje, when he was putting it on people, you got to go, God damn, he's good.
I'm curious to see.
The Brazilian do Bronx, the man from favelas, and simply Charles Oliveira. In the past, the doctors said that he will be in a wheelchair, not being able to do sports, and right now, he is one of the best lightweights on the planet and a former champion of the world. Perhaps most of us would agree that this beast deserves our attention and respect like nobody else. Charles Oliveira went through such thorns that it's hard to realize at what cost he laid his path to the stars. He has been competing in the world's best league since 19, and during all this time, he was going up against the best of the best in this game. Sure, at first glance he performed with a mixed success, but that doesn't indicate what fighter he is now. On the contrary, it shows that no matter what obstacles he's faced on his journey, in the end, he only got harder and came back stronger. Since he moved from the featherweight division to the lightweight, do Bronx crushed absolutely everybody in his way to the coveted dream. At first, he was just winning thanks to his base in jiu-jitsu. However, over time he fine-tuned and improved every aspect of his game to perfection. He did not leave any chances to any contender in front of him and proved that everybody, with no exceptions, has to reckon with his figure. Not to mention his knockout win over Michael Chandler, who in his best years was dropping his opponents left and right. And what about the devastating knockdown against Justin Gaethje? Oliveira is the only one to drop him that badly in his entire career. The Brazilian racked up an impressive streak of 11 wins, dismantled every elite lightweight, and wrote his name down in history forever. We can't wait for Charles Oliveira to return to the main octagon and genuinely hope that this guy will have a great showing in the future. The champion has a name, and today it takes this spot on our list.
Ei, tá faltando alguma coisa aqui, não tá? O campeão se chama Charles Oliveira, o Charles do Bronx.
Number 2. Justin Gaethje.
Justin Gaethje's a monster. Justin Gaethje is a monster. He's a monster. He's a terrifying individual. He is, in a sport that's violent, it's an inherently violent sport, he stands out as the most violent. You watched his knockout of Edson Barboza. You watch how that motherfucker attacks people. There's a reckless abandon to his calculated wildness that is it's terrifying.
If the word highlight had a human embodiment, it would be Justin Gaethje, no doubt about it. This guy was literally made to create destruction in the octagon and give people unspeakable feelings. The American's entire career is based on a blatantly beastly fury and spectacular brawls in the center of the octagon. No matter what happens in the fight, Justin follows one single motto: kill or be killed. He simply dismisses any other scenario, and that's exactly why we love him. Just think about the fact that since his debut performance in the UFC, and at that time he was undefeated champion, having 5 title defenses in a local organization, he hasn't fought anybody outside of the top 10. It's insane. And on top of that, he was awarded with 11 bonuses for delivering a fight of the night or a performance of the night in all of his fights inside the UFC. Now we have reached a point where every time the highlight performs in the UFC, the fans see that as a signal that we are about to see another spectacular war inside the octagon, and we can't miss it. Because those emotions that Justin Gaethje gives are impossible to be evoked by almost any other fighter on the roster. Highlight is going to be 35 this year, and he wants to have his last title run and then retire in peace. Either way, he already left a big legacy that will make him go down in history as one of the most vivid performers in recent times. And for now, he takes this place on our list.
I'm the most exciting fighter that has ever stepped in the octagon in the history of this sport, and of course I pride myself in that.
Number 1. Michael Chandler.
entertaining lightweight on the planet.
It's hard to disagree that Michael Chandler is indeed one of the most exciting fighters on the UFC roster. When Khabib Nurmagomedov left the organization, the Iron One's arrival literally reignited the lightweight division, because by that moment, the main trinity in the face of the Dagestani champion, the notorious Irishman, and the Mexican El Cucuy already left the top positions, and to everybody's surprise, a 34-year-old veteran who transitioned from Bellator, where by the way, he was a 3-time champion of the world, perfectly fit in and shook things up. For such a short period of time, the Iron One put on numerous brutal brawls with magnificent endings. For all 5 fights inside the UFC, Chandler was well-deservedly awarded with 4 bonuses. And the best thing about this guy is that regardless of the final outcome, he will enter the cage anyway and show everything he is capable of. Not only does Michael Chandler win in spectacular fashion, but loses spectacularly as well. And that doesn't mean that he is a bad fighter at all. He beat many well-known and elite fighters throughout his whole career. And even now, despite his age, he continues to be competitive against the best lightweights in the UFC. We'll say it again. Even if we subconsciously understand that Iron Mike won't be able to beat one or another fighter, either way we can't argue the fact that his fight will give us an entire spectrum of emotions which will be more than enough to ultimately please us. Actually, it feels like if the American wouldn't have fought so desperately for the crowd's entertainment, he could have won in almost every given fight. And for that, Michael Chandler takes the #1 spot on our list.
Conor McGregor! Surprise, surprise! There's a new king in the lightweight division!
There it is, guys. Leave your opinion in the comments below. Who do you think can be called the most vivid and spectacular fighter in the UFC, and why? Subscribe to the channel so you won't miss the new videos. Hit the like button if you enjoyed this one. And that's it for today, friends. See you soon.